Today, the fifth Sunday after Pascha, is called the Sunday of the Blind Man because we commemorate the healing of a blind man at the pool of Siloam. We have so many icons in the church that sometimes we forget about what we have in here. So this icon over the baptistry right here behind is the healing of the man born blind. And you can see the pool of Siloam when you go outside. That is the icon of today's feast. And this Thursday, the icon of Ascension is up there right over the choir, above the choir, two above the choir. That's the icon of Ascension. So we have like beautiful frescoes on the walls of our church. Some of them are very well known and some of them are not, but this one to my right is the icon from the gospel today. So there's a couple takeaways from this gospel. One of them is a question that comes to our minds, at least at some point in life. Everyone will ask this question. Jesus saw a man who was blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? The understanding back then was that anything bad that happened to you was either your fault or you were born into it. It was your parents' fault. We don't understand that this way now. I mean, if someone is born with a birth defect, as an example, that is not a sin of somebody's parents, and it's certainly not their own sin to be born in a certain way. How can we control how we are born? And so it brings to mind the question, why do bad things happen to people? Specifically, why do bad things happen to good people? And at some point in your life, you're going to say, why do bad things happen to me? I feel like I'm an ostensibly good person. Everyone will have that question on their mind, either for themselves or in some unfortunate circumstance, like a terrorist attack. Why do people die in a plane crash or in the 9/11? And so Jesus answers, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be made manifest in him. Now, I do not believe for a minute that God causes any of our misfortunes, but I do believe that in any misfortune, God can be found there in something good that happens. So what then causes bad things to happen to people? And I know I'm looking out at the congregation and I can see a few people that I think this will speak to, because we've had some bad things befall us in the last week or two or month. So what causes bad things to happen to people? One of a couple things. Number one, sometimes we make bad choices. And so there are consequences to our bad choices. I drive too fast, I hit a wall, my car is wrecked. Maybe I'm wrecked. That is a bad consequence of a bad personal choice. Second thing that might happen is we might be the victim of somebody else's bad personal choice. I'm driving, someone's driving too fast, they hit a wall, they careen into me, and they ruin my car. I didn't do anything wrong. It's not because God doesn't like me. It's because someone does something and I'm affected by their bad consequence. Now, why doesn't God just stop all the bad consequences? Because if God did that, that would relegate us to being like robots, and we're not. God gave us free will, and the free will comes with choices, and sometimes in our fallen nature, we make bad choices, sometimes on purpose, and sometimes even not on purpose. We make bad choices, and we have bad consequences. So, we know that. The next thing that happens is something that I will call disasters of nature. I do not ascribe to the word natural disasters. The nature that God made, the natural state of what God made is good. The natural state is good. The state we find ourselves in, the fallen state of nature, is a cause of the fall, not of God's plan. So we live in an area that has hurricanes. If none of us lived here, none of us would be victim to the hurricane. But part of our world is that there are disasters of nature that get just about everybody. In Florida, it's hurricanes. In California, it's earthquakes. In the Midwest, it's blizzards during winter. In the Midwest, it's tornadoes in the summer. So that's three causes. And the fourth cause is sort of the catch-all. We are equal sharers of an imperfect nature that's going to get everybody in a certain way. Equal shares of an imperfect nature that's going to get everybody in a certain way. So some of you have heard this before, forgive the redundancy, but for those who haven't, if we were perfect people having perfect conversation in a perfect building, nothing wrong here, perfect air, and someone came in here and sprayed 100 or 200 cans of hairspray, the way they did when I was in high school in the 80s, aerosol, remember that if you're that old. The air would all of a sudden be very polluted in here. We wouldn't have changed. You wouldn't have done anything wrong. I wouldn't have done anything wrong. But the air we're exposed to would be messed up. And everybody would suffer as a consequence. Someone would get watery eyes. Someone would get a headache. Someone else would start coughing. Someone else would start sneezing. Everyone would have a consequence. And that consequence might be different for everybody. Not everyone's going to sneeze or cough. Some people will sneeze. Some people will cough. So what happens in our world when we have imperfect water that we all drink, we have imperfect air that we all breathe, it results in imperfect gene pools from which we all come, and this causes things to even the best of people. So people have genes that are going to result in certain things. Both my parents, as an example, died from cancer in the last 11 years, and most likely that's the gene that I will carry. Most likely that my demise will come in that way, unless it comes from accident. But if I die from natural causes, it's probably going to be that, because that's in my gene pool. I'm probably not going to live to be 100. That's not in our gene pool. But there are people who have genes that are really good. And there are people who have genes that perhaps result in Parkinson's or dementia or heart disease. There's a lot that comes from our gene pool. There's a lot also that comes from our behavior. I can overeat and cause my demise a lot earlier. But even if I have the most perfect health, the most perfect diet, the most perfect everything, the most perfect behavior, at some point, the equal share in imperfect nature is going to get everybody, including me. Jesus said to the man that was born blind, "Go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam." Now imagine the pool of Siloam being at the distance that Tampa Bay is from here, about a mile. Imagine you've never been down Howard Avenue because you couldn't see it. And imagine you had nobody to help you because everyone said all the people born blind must be horrible people, like don't touch them because maybe it's contagious. So Jesus said, go down and wash yourselves in a place you've never seen, in a direction you've never gone, and have no help whatsoever. Imagine the faith that this man had. And to make it even worse, he takes dirt from the ground and puts it on the man's face, which obviously looks very unnatural, and he says, now go and do that. So imagine the ridicule and the question and the doubt this man must have had on this journey. No one's ever told someone to do that, and he does it. Imagine that faith. And then he's healed. And rather than have the joy of being healed, immediately he has like consternation. People will say like, the guy who healed you, he's bad news. He healed you on the Sabbath. His parents reject him. Like, we know this is our son. We know he was born blind. We don't know how he got like this. We don't want to mess up our standing in the temple, so he's on his own. So he's rejected by his people, he's rejected by his own parents, and yet he still has faith, and he comes to Jesus, and Jesus says, you know who the Son of Man is? And he says, I don't know. Tell me who he is so I can believe. And Jesus says, I'm the Son of Man. And the man formerly born blind drops to his knees and says, Lord, I believe, and worships him. So it takes a lot of faith to live in a world where we are equal shares of a fallen nature. We know that no matter how good we are or what we do, we're all going to suffer in some way. And to keep showing up to worship on Sundays, to keep showing up and praying to God, it requires a lot of faith to keep doing that. But we believe, and we'll talk about this more next week as we commemorate the Creed, we believe that there is a better life that follows this life, and that's why we're all here, imperfect as we are. We believe that something greater is coming after this, and that's why we continue to worship here.